Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
So if you're hearing my voice and you're seeing my face, then you have stumbled upon a brand new podcast called Seriously Dad, where two father comedians out of Philadelphia talk about real life, the unfiltered stuff that may or may not ever end up in our act, because we know that real is funny. So you're going to be hearing from Al Davis, Jay Yoder. We're going to be talking about the gamut. Everything, two different people, two different lifestyles. We're going to be having guests. It's going to be a great time. We hope everybody gets something out of this. So stay tuned. And here's the first episode. Seriously, Dad? Seriously, Dad? Two father comedians out of Philadelphia. Seriously, Dad?
Dad? Seriously?
Dude, I am so glad that we have this pipe dream we had, this idea we had, and we're finally making this happen, man. So for those of you listening, we're excited. I'm Jay Yoder. We're going to do Age Before Beauty, so I'll go first. I'm Jay Yoder. I am a comedian, teacher, and most importantly, a dad, right? So I got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old at home. We're here to talk a little bit about that today. But before we get into it, I'm going to let my co-host introduce a little bit about himself too.
That's Albert Davis, ladies and gentlemen. How are we? I am a comedian, father as well. Father of two. I'm like a father of 1.5 girls. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I'm a comedian. So Jay and I, we started kind of palling around on the road, going to different clubs and venues. And every time we're around each other, we just start talking about these kids of ours. And I was like, yo, why don't we just like do a podcast where we talk about our kids?
Yeah,
And here we are. Doing a podcast, Drop Tent Media style, baby. Doing a podcast talking about our kids. And I think it'll be a fun journey. So what, you got girls? How many do you got?
Yep, I got 2 girls. Blessed with 2 girls. I'm living with all females in my house right now. I've lived with all women my whole life. So for me, it makes sense. So I'm down with that. And they're school age. Are you school age too, right?
Yeah, but see, I'm different. I don't live in the same house. So I'm a little different. You know, I'm not a custodial parent. So though I am a good father, I'm not there every day, which is part of the dichotomy between you and I is that we're doing the same things, but we're doing it differently.
I think that's what's going to be the beauty of this, because people are going to be listening and be like, oh yeah, like I identify with that, because at the end of the day, we're both seriously dads, right? That's going to be the thing. And that's part of the whole beef. And so I think today for us, what we want to start for you guys is at the beginning. I think it makes sense. We're going to be having guests on and all sorts of stuff, but today we're going to start at the beginning, when we found out that we were seriously going to be dads, right? I mean, do you remember the moment that you found out you were going to be a dad?
Oh, yes.
Do you know where? It's like 9/11. Do you remember where you were?
Yeah, it was like that. Yeah, not only do I remember where I was, I remember like when it happened. If you get what I'm saying. I remember like the time it happened. So I was in a relationship. This is a very unique story. I was in a relationship with a woman, and we lived together, and then we broke up. And in the meantime, between the breakup and getting out of the same house, things happened. And we did the thing that makes babies, and we did it. And then that gave way to my daughter.
So how long had you been with her prior to the deed?
Maybe like a year and a half, maybe almost, we'll say almost 2 years.
Okay. So and that was like, you had never met her before. Did you know her as a friend before that or anything?
Oh, Jesus Christ. This is bad. We worked together. we worked together.
Dude,
at
it's real.
Point.
That's
real shit. We worked together at one point. Right. And that's the weird thing. When you work with people, you're around like someone for 9 hours, 10, you know what I mean? You're just around people. Then it's like, hey, let's go to happy hour. And it's like, hey, you're kind of interesting. Then it's like, we're banging, and then we're in a relationship, and then we're living together.
But you know each, like when you go through that, like, I think a lot of times when people who don't, like my wife and I, we work together too, but people who don't work together, I feel like sometimes they don't really get what happens. It's almost like when you play peekaboo with your kid, like when you're not there, like you don't kind of get what happens. Maybe you talk at the dinner table, but so I think when you bond over the fact that you work together, now you're spending almost potentially 24 hours together.
Well, when we lived together, we worked for the same company, but we didn't work together.
Okay. Well, that's even better.
That was better. But then the crazy part about it is it was a rough breakup. So you got a rough breakup, and then it's like, oh, by the way.
And so she calls you, or were you? Did she like do it in person?
She called me. And I thought she was lying.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, nice try. I was like, nice try. You think that's gonna keep me around?
Baby trap. I just find it's a baby
trap.
trap.
Exactly. I was like, nice try. You think I'm gonna stick around for this shit? And you know, I neglected to acknowledge that I had a child on the way for a long time because I thought it was all like a joke. I thought, you know, because you could take a picture of a pregnancy test and send it to somebody. You could Google that shit.
I kid you not. So, okay. So when I was 16, so when I was 16, I went to Argentina to study abroad for a summer, and I was dating a girl. We kind of broke up, but she was that kind of girl that I just didn't trust. She was 2 or 3 years older than me. And she was like 19. I was like 16 at the time. And so while I was in Argentina, she had left a note in my car that my mom ended up finding. And it was this whole note that, hey, I'm pregnant. So now my mom's calling me, and was Argentina, was in the 90s. So like, you didn't just call. It wasn't like FaceTime. There were fees involved.
You had to buy minutes.
It was like a whole deal. So yeah, so like we had this
one.
one conversation we would have maybe every other day, right? Because I was there for like 7 weeks. And so she would keep calling me. She'd be like, is there something you want to tell me? Is there something you want to tell me? And it kept happening. And I'm just like, Mom, what is the deal? And she finally told me that she had found this note from this girl. And I was like, but it was a trap. It was a complete trap. It was false. It was not true. And I think a lot of people would say that they have a story like that, or you could completely understand that, there should be, I don't know if this is true. You're going through a breakup.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You're going through a breakup where it's like somebody still cared and still wanted you in their life. Like, what's the best way to do that is to string along this concept, this notion that you're bound to me for at least the next 18 years. So we might as well figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I thought being on the same phone bill was a bad deal. You know what I mean? Right. That's like a 2-year non-termination fee.
But that's the crazy thing too, is like if you don't get it, you ever hear people say, like, if you're not good at managing money when you don't have any money, if you won the lottery, you wouldn't be able to manage that either.
Yeah, what's the difference?
If you're not good at getting along when there's not a child,
how many people must do that? It's going to save our marriage. It's going to save our relationship. That's a real thing, and I think that is a real thing. And that's so one of the things when I was in high school, I'd had a teacher who I was really close with. I'd gone to a couple different high schools, so this last one kind of took me under his wing. Him and his wife were married 8 years before they had their first kid.
Genius.
And they did it on purpose.
Genius.
And I was like, oh my goodness, that's so great. So like, when my wife, we had been married, I think 2.5, 3 years at that point. And I thought we were gonna, but I was almost 30 at that point because I waited so long to propose. And I'll never forget when she told me, I was so excited. She was nervous that I was gonna not be receptive. So she waited to tell me. And then I was so excited because I thought I was shooting blanks for all these years. I thought I'd been sexually active for half of my life at this point. And I was like, I guess my pullout game was strong, but I just thought my boys didn't swim. So like for me, I'm so excited. Now I wanted to wait a little bit longer in our marriage. Like we only had 2.5, 3 years together at that point, but we had been together 4 years before that. So, it comes when it comes. Like we weren't doing the thing. I couldn't imagine having sex on a schedule. I know some people do. And if you're someone who's struggling, my cousin,
like that,
she struggled. She couldn't get pregnant. And then all of a sudden, boom, and she was watching all of us have kids and it was tearing her
that's
apart.
Gotta hurt. Yeah,
you know what I mean? And so I know people are out there like that, but like for me, I thought it wasn't going to happen. And then boom, I was ecstatic, but then we were about to go to a party and you're supposed to wait 12 weeks before you tell anybody. So we're like about to go out the door when she finally tells me. She has to hold a beer can the whole night pretending she's drinking. And I have to sit there pretending like I'm listening to a conversation when my whole life has just changed. You know what I mean?
Well, what's the first thought? Like when you found out, what was the first thought? Like
I wanted to jump. I was just like, yes, my boys can swim. Like, and then you're just like, I always wanted to be a teacher growing up. I always wanted to be a dad. I wanted to do that. I didn't have a dad growing up for most of my life. He was in and out of my life a lot. So I felt like this was my chance to reset the course. And this was like a calling for me. So like for me, I was like, I've been taking care of other people's kids for how many years at that point? I've been a teacher since I was 22. So it'd been 8 years of me caring for other people's kids, coaching other people's kids.
There you go.
And so now it was kind of like, that was like the work that I was putting in so that I could, you go to all these parent conferences, you see all these teachers and these parents and what they do to their kids. And it was my chance to maybe have my say,
Right. I think you brought up a good point. I think if you have like your dad isn't around, if you're come up in like a broken home, I know I knew that I was going to be, should say be good. I was going to try my hardest as a father. You know what I mean? Like exactly. I was going to try because be good or be bad. What does that even mean? But I knew I was going to try my hardest as a father because I want my daughter to know that like I got a dad and he's everything that I need him to be.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like you do like try your hard. And I was scared shit because I was gonna try my hardest, but for me it was like the situation was so not ideal.
Yeah.
And I was just like the chips, dude, hold on, let me go back. So we move out of the house, right? Where we live together. I bought my first house. So I just bought my first house. I move into my own house and I'm like happy. It's me and my dogs. It's like this new chapter in my life. And I'm gonna, be the best version of me I could possibly be. And then it's like, oh, and by the way, you have
there's another version of you coming.
Yeah. There's a more annoying version of me on the way, a little shit version of me on the way. And it was like it was very shocking for me.
Yeah.
It was very shocking. And I knew right away it was a girl. I knew 100% right away.
Really?
I knew right away. I was like, it's a girl. I started picking out girls' names right away. Once I realized that it was true and it was really happening, I was like, it's going to be a girl. And I picked out the name right away.
That's so funny. So so like I guess I didn't know we did. So we did a gender reveal eventually.
Oh boy!
Did you tell people? So before going further with that, did you tell people like your parents? Were you hesitant to tell your parents? Like
yeah. Because once again, I'm different. My mother, my sister, they knew that the relationship was not a good relationship. It was toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Right. It's called like it is. So when I was getting out of it, it was like, everyone's exhaled, like, thank God. And then it's like, but I'm not done. Now, before I paint this person to be a horrible person, we get along fine now.
Yeah.
We're doing a very good job co-parenting. It's got its highs and its lows. It's not the easiest thing in the world. The beginning was a little rougher than now, but we figured it out. We're doing pretty well. But at the time, I mean, that was like, oh my freaking God, what are we going to do? What am I going to do? You know what I mean? But, the first person I told was my aunt. And she said, kids are never a mistake. And that was it.
That's all you needed.
That's
That's great. You need someone like that. Like
that's all you need is someone to be like
aunts and uncle. Like they're so great because like you get the best of everything in that.
Yeah, and that was it. And then I just switched my mindset to like, okay, everything I do now, I got to be a good father. And then I knew I had about like 7.5 months to like get it all out of my system because that was the other thing. I was like, okay, I got to go. Oh, I didn't even add this. I had started a new relationship. Oh my God, I forgot all about.
Oh my God! So now you had to tell this new relationship. What was you must have had a pit in your stomach waiting to have that conversation.
She was like, okay. That's cool.
Oh wow! All right.
I did not expect that, and I sat on that for like 3 months before I told her.
Well, let's give what year are we talking just for a frame of reference?
What year is this?
Yeah, we're talking like 2017. 2017. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, I told her, and she was like, okay. She's like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that went way easier than I thought.
Yeah.
And then we were together until my daughter was born, maybe a year after my daughter, and then the relationship went. Because at that time, it's very difficult to be a father and a boyfriend.
Now, did you grow up? So did you grow up? Your parents still together? Were they divorced? Like,
oh, they were divorced.
Had they been divorced for most of your life? Or
yeah.
Okay, yeah, me too. My parents got divorced when I was 2, so I don't have any memory of like my parents being together. But here, and then the mess up part of that, or the different part of that, is that like both my parents played house, but then they were like, oh, wait, we're gay. So now my mom is gay. My dad turns out to be gay. Now my dad, I didn't know for this good portion. Mm-hmm. So he was still figuring himself out. So he couldn't be around because he didn't know who he was. Oh. And now today we have a great relationship, which is awesome. But then like he never met my wife. He wasn't at my wedding. Really? He wasn't at the birth of my child.
Both your parents are gay.
So both my parents are gay. So like, yeah. So like they both, I mean, we're talking like 80s Scranton, Irish Catholic.
You could not be gay in 80s Scranton.
You were not allowed. So they basically both first tried to go into the seminary. They both tried to deny. There were no Chick-fil-A around then, so they just had to kind of. So then they were like, "This isn't working for us. This is not our calling." They both went to a Jesuit university, University of Scranton. They met. My mom was tutoring my dad. They met. There must have been some connection there, and then I think they both must have had that feeling. Like we're supposed to be this way. There's a Norman Rockwell painting here. We're supposed to have this scene for our parents. And so let's do this. And so I think that relationship formed because, oh, let's play house. This is what our parents want.
Do you
We're
think
getting along.
subconsciously they knew that the other was
I
like
think
in
you
the
have
closet,
to. I think
like a
deep
gaydar
down,
kind of thing?
because I really do. And because my uncle, my mom's brother is also gay. So like I'm so
Okay.
so like I think when I look back at the three of them as individuals, I'm like, wow, like so like growing up, I grew up, when I say my parents, normally I'm talking about my two moms.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I couldn't call my other mom my mom, so she was my mom's friend, or later on she was my aunt. But she was like 10 years older than my mom and from Australia. So like here I am, like in witness protection, trying to like make up a story, because every time you go to the grocery store, you're trying to introduce people, I have to give like a doctoral thesis as to who this other person is.
You knew they were gay.
So I knew that. My mom told me in the very beginning, I'll never forget it, because she's like, oh, do you know what it means? And I'm like, yeah, it's someone who's sick. Because like, like real talk, like that's because in the neighborhood, like they would call everybody like gay or, you know, whatever. And I just assumed it was because there was something wrong with them or they were sick. And I didn't quite get it. And then she, you know, set me straight on that. And I did not, no pun intended. And so that was like,
so you were like living in the closet with them.
So yeah, so my family life was not accepted. So now here I am about to have a kid. I'm like, oh my goodness, I've done the Norman, like not just living my life, like, but like now I have a wife. I, you know, have a house. We were already married. Like there were all of these things in there that were like normal, but I didn't grow up that way. So like for me, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be a dad. And I'm like, oh, but I don't have a stencil for this. I don't know what this looks like. I mean, I knew having two parents in the house, I knew what that looked like, but it was two women, you know what I mean? And like, so there's a different beast. So like for me, like fixing stuff and all of that, the yard works, like my father-in-law grew up on a farm and like all this other stuff. And like, he they have all these tools and they know what they do. And I have like the starter kit from like Home Depot, you know, like, so it's just like all of these pieces. I always put myself down.
You got like the IKEA screwdriver.
Yeah. I got an Allen wrench, you know, I got dude, I got like a Swiss Army Allen wrench.
But you know, that's a good point, because you talk about the household. So one thing that's very difficult for me is like, I can't tell someone what to do in their own house.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to parent outside, I can't be like, hey, you need to make sure this is happening. I can't do that.
Was that like, but for you growing up in a divorced household, did you kind of, navigated those waters as a kid?
Yeah. Though, right? Well, my mom was in charge. So I live with my mom. So my mom was in charge.
Did you visit your dad?
Yeah, he would actually come visit us, because we didn't live like close. We lived in upstate New York. He lived in New York City.
Oh, clear.
But he would come up. But now, like parenting, if I see something, you know, if you see something, say something. Not when you're the dad who doesn't live in the house. You see something, you shut the fuck up and you just let it happen. That's what it is. Like I see things, and I because you can't tell someone what to do in their own house. Yeah, you can. It's very difficult to do that and get a reception. And I think when I first started, I was like trying to fight that battle, trying to tell someone what to do in their own house. And I realized I can't do that. Like I can't tell someone who pays their own mortgage and their own this and that inside these walls, you need to do what I say. Not gonna happen.
But you know what though? At the same token, as someone like who like I live with my life still, I think she's still married to me. She did say she was taking my daughter, but I think it was just to lunch. But I think that we still have those battles where even though we are together, we're married, we're happily married, whatever. You're still gonna have like there's certain things where I want to discipline the kid one way, and it's in the moment, and it's like, oh, I was raised this way, she was raised that way, so like you still have even. You still have those moments where you're like, oh, can I tell her to do this? My wife doesn't want me to tell her to do this. So it's funny because, I think there's certain things about parenting that are true. It just when you live in a different household, I know I played both my parents. You know what I mean? Like Nintendos at Christmas, like because there was a period of time when I was really young that my dad he got married again. So I had three moms at one point. And so like on every other weekend, I would go up to his house, and he lived like 45, 50 minutes up. So we would pick a middle point, drop me off. There would be a prisoner exchange, and that's
a weird thing too.
So I grew up like that. So I grew up with two different rooms, two different Sega systems, two different whatever. and then my dad continued to play house. He really bought into it, even when my mom parachuted out and said, "No, I know who I am." You know, and this dude, Ellen was still straight at this point, so that she was a pioneer. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, and so now my dad still dug in, full deny defense, whole deal. Had a second wife, and then tried to play house with that. We tried to go to church on Sundays, tried to do all those things. And so I had these two lives. The one, my dad held on to the Norman Rockwell, and then my mom was like, "No, we're gonna say what it is."
Did you think your dad knew he was gay when he had moved on and did all that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, so he was just
I could tell, because now knowing him, he's married 20 years to a guy in Spain. He lives in Spain right now.
That's some exotic ass shit. Dude. That's some exotic ass shit.
This could be a whole.
Oh my god! I just see this beautiful Spaniard with the olive skin. His shirt's buttoned down to his fucking belly button.
He dives for razorfish. That is his profession.
Yeah, this guy's just getting out of the water.
Dude, yeah, he's like a shorter version of you. He looks. I'll tell you what though. Now that we're together, we have this. It's amazing because I was joking in my bit because I talk a lot about my family, and I was like, yeah, it sounds like this 90-day fiance energy with him, but they've actually been married for 20 years.
Because he's happy, dude.
Yeah, well, and that's it. I mean, they met on AOL. You know, so like,
holy shit, on AOL.
Yeah,
wow, in the chat room.
Yeah, when the internet came out, so did they. How did they? Like, boom.
How did they send the pixelated like digital?
Dude, I do not want to have this conversation. No, but I will say this. I think he just was. I can see it now. Like, he is like, I love who he is now. I'm so grateful that he got to this place, as much as I was so angry at him. Like, I mean, write letters that you don't ever send in a just drawer. Angry.
Really?
Yeah, I was raised by women. That's what they teach you to do, that kind of crap.
that's strong women energy right there.
It's some strong Oprah stuff going on there. But yeah, so like, I could see now like that release from him, like his Facebook profile picture is like a field of lavenders.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I did that gig that I got you, the one with the purse bingo.
Yeah.
I did that the year before, and I had like photos of me on Facebook, like popping my leg with the bags. And of course my dad's in the comments, your shoes don't match your purse. So like, he embraces it. Got a fedora for every day of the week. He's got like the vibrant.
It's good to see people happy. It's good to see people
dude, it's
happy.
So great. And I'll tell you what, like, it's so great. I can tell he's still like around my daughters. Luis, his husband, is such a great grandfather. He never had kids, and so he's such a great grandfather. And I can see my dad's hesitant because he just had never really been around kids.
Yeah.
And so it's really a nice union in that regard, because Luis had a really strong family connection despite his choices, where I don't think my dad was ever accepted. And now both of his parents are no longer with us for a good period. He stayed straight as long as they were alive. I don't think he felt comfortable until they were in the ground.
There you go.
To explore that,
And you have 2 kids.
I have 2 kids,
okay.
6 and 8, going to be 9, and that's where we're staying.
Yeah,
that is it.
See, now I got very interesting. So my daughter has a sister, but that sister is not related to me biologically,
and she's younger.
She's younger, and unfortunately her father's not, and we don't know, not around. Yeah. So I essentially have 2 daughters now. So I have a daughter that's not mine, but her and her sister are so tight. When I would go to get my daughter to go do things, and she'd be like, "Can her sister come?" And I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to be like, no, that's not my kid. So no, because I think I think their relationship is very important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay. So there's something, and Neil, you might have to help us out with this. There was a thing going on in the news where somebody didn't buy a Happy Meal for their kid, and like a woman went off like, why won't you buy it for the other kid?
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know the context of it, but like, there was something there. Do you know?
I know it. I know because I like Instagram. And
all right.
So apparently, first of all, from what I saw, I don't know these people obviously, but the guy shows up, and the woman has multiple children. He shows up with a Happy Meal for his kid.
Okay.
And he's like, I want to give my kid this Happy Meal. And she says, no, because you didn't get Happy Meals for the other kids. And he's saying, those aren't my kids. Why am I buying them Happy Meals?
Yeah, because he's kind of flexing. I get it. I
get both sides 100%.
Yeah.
But so I guess my first question is, I mean, what are you, daddy? You're just showing up with a Happy Meal and rolling out?
What are they? Like, I know inflation's crazy now, but like,
like, why? I don't think it's weird to just show up with a Happy Meal.
Your thought is, I'm going to.
I would have brought 2 Happy Meals. Yeah. But because it's important for me to understand, for my daughters to have a good relationship with one another.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't think watching one's father be present and here and laughing and throwing up in the air.
That's like putting beta fish in the same
Exactly. And then be like, I don't really pick you up because you're not mine. That's how you create a Marvel villain.
You have to be
That's how,
you have to be you understand, even though you didn't create that other person, you got to understand the situation. Yeah. Oh, it must have been a huge pull. Okay, I see.
Geez, that's just came
but
right
like, but that's because I think you got to be responsible. Now, I don't know. I mean, is she like old Mother Hubbard? Like, how many kids we talking about?
I mean, I also get what this guy. I do also understand what the other guy's saying. Like, hey,
I'm present.
I'm taking care of my responsibility, and you're asking me to be responsible for everybody else's stuff. So I don't know what the right or wrong answer is. I know my answer is I bring 2 Happy Meals.
Yeah.
Actually, my real answer is I don't eat McDonald's. So fuck those Happy
I know
Meals.
you don't.
I'm not bringing
everybody watching the video.
I'm not bringing
like,
Happy Meals in this house. I'm bringing Gatorade.
They got apple slices
bananas.
now.
Yeah, I'm bringing apple slices and shit. But yeah, that's a thing, that people are raising.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is the exact one.
But here, that's the point. I think the takeaway for me is what you're saying. Like, we don't know how people react in certain situations, the hill that they're willing to die in or make a stance for. Like, I gotta respect that, because like when I respect like my parents' choices, and even if I wouldn't have made that choice, my dad's choice to hold on longer, my mom's to make it earlier, but still kind of be hidden about it. Like, people, we all have choices we have to make every day. There's always a split in the road. Every day. And it's like, so you got to respect the people making a decision. Or
what it does for me is, like, I just think of this, right? If in 20 years I'm sitting there and you have 2 sisters and one's life is A and one's life is B, and they're drastically different, I don't want to look back and go, I was a part of this equation and I helped make her life that way and her life that way, especially if one's is like negative, right? If one's like, oh, I'm in the WNBA, I'm a professional rock climber. It's like 2 positive things. It's like, okay, whatever. If one's like, I'm a successful CEO and I've been in that system 4 times, it'd be like, dang, what did I do to help this person?
You had an opportunity.
Yeah, I could have helped somebody and I didn't. So I say, look, Happy Meals, $7, whatever they cost, just bring 2 Happy Meals. Now, I will say, I don't know the financial status of that guy.
That's true.
And going through life and picking up the tab for it gets expensive. Zoo tickets aren't cheap, bro. Sky Zone isn't cheap, bro. Like trips to Target aren't cheap. When the one kid wants a toy, they both want a toy. It's not cheap stuff. And over the course of a year, it adds up.
And there were other things at play. There were other I agree. I think but you're right. Like, I think having the responsibility and that you take on, hey, these are 2 sisters, and I need to help create.
A shared the Marvel villain. I don't want one to be the Marvel villain. I don't want one to, you know what I mean? And like watching someone's dad be there. And what's even crazy, not crazy, but more part of the story, additional part of the story is that I have a girlfriend, and my girlfriend has no blood relation to either of those girls. And she is stepmom, super, whatever, additional mom, bonus mom, stepmom, whatever you want to call it. She is all in with those girls. That's
why I'm so grateful for his crazy. You could never write a background story like mine, but like, I am so grateful because so my mom and my other mom, Colleen, who's no longer with us, like they were together for like 16 solid years of my formidable years, like from the time I was like, 9.
And that's like still the current partner.
So, well, no, unfortunately she passed away.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So, but they, for a good portion up until through college and whatever, but my mom prior to that had a couple relationships, and I always had a good connection with her other girlfriends at the time. There were only 2, but like they were serious enough relationships that I was introduced to them. And I'm so grateful for the extended family, because I now know that blood doesn't mean family. I mean, I've had so many people in my life, because I even had a guy who stepped in as a father figure because he knew I didn't have one.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in college, I had met a guy, and he had become a father to me. He had fostered other kids. And so it was obviously off the books because I was a grown adult by then, but he clearly, I was studying at Ursinus, and I was doing ed psych at the time, and I shadowed in the office, and we had lunch together a couple of times with my professor, and he just brought me in as part of his family.
There you go.
And so that was because he just knew. He said, he's like, I had these 3 other kids that aren't mine. What's one more? And like, so that's when you realize that people step up and people do that. And it's great because now, your your sister, your daughter's, younger sister now has somebody. She has a male in her life.
That's what it is.
To at least
to see how a male should treat women that are important.
Even if you're not actively doing something, your
Yeah.
presence. That's why they say, like, half the battle is being there and being present.
Yeah.
Because
so,
you're a mom.
Well, let me ask you. So, would you bring the other Happy Meal?
I mean, yeah, of course. I'm that kind of guy. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that brings the whole thing for my class. I was the teacher that, like, teaching Spanish and Latin. I'd be bringing in making, like, paella, or I'd be like making Cuban sandwiches for the kids, or like a George Foreman on the side. Like,
that's nice, dude.
Yeah.
Neil, you bringing in the sandwiches? You bringing in the two Happy Meals?
I just bought 2 different shows this weekend. I fed all the comics. Yeah, man. I'm buying. They didn't even do it. I was like, yeah, pizza for you guys. Yeah,
they are like children.
They definitely are. They definitely
are like children. Yeah, no, that's true. So, all right. So to keep moving with the story a little bit. So now, like, all right. So now we know we're having kids at this point. We've got different living situations, whatever. Are you nervous about having your first kid as you're waiting for it to, we had an app where it was like, it's a grape nut today.
Oh, yeah,
it's an avocado today.
Yeah, it's pumpkin.
Like, that whole period, like, I had things going through my head, like, and it was silly stuff. Like, I remember having a dumb thought. I kept having this, and it was so stupid. But, like, I remember when I was a kid thinking about I can't have kids. I don't even know how old they are when they're born. Like, you can't be 0, can you? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even get, like, some of those. I'd never changed a diaper before. Any of that. Have you ever did you change a diaper?
I don't think I'd ever changed a diaper before. I was nervous as can be because crazy shit happens. So I was into, like, I hope nothing crazy happens between now and the birthday.
Like car seats. I was nervous about installing.
Did you take the class?
Seat.
Did you take the class?
We took classes. I took classes, dude. I took classes.
Yeah, I took. So I took the class, right? And I'm like, I got like a fucking notebook. I'm asking questions, and I swear everyone else. I swear every other dad in there was like hungover and wanted to, like, be doing something. No one's asking, and I'm going. So if the car seat gets to put in, and it's facing this, and people are like rolling their eyes, and I'm asking questions and shit. I felt like really like I was like annoying everybody.
Did you know that the local police will check it for you? I went to the local police department and installed it, and then they actually have a way to come in and they'll check it for you to make sure you're good.
Did you know that once a car seat is involved in an accident, you got to replace it?
It's done. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah. A lot
of gotta get the Carfax report on that.
And in the summertime, if it gets really hot, you're supposed to take the car seat out because it'll start melting. Yeah.
And they have a date. Like, if you note on the back, there is like an expiration date. So like, if people like Facebook Marketplace stuff, you got, like, my wife's so good with that. You got to check on the back because it has a date, Yeah. I mean, heck, condoms used to have a date, I mean, maybe that's how we got here.
Yeah. So I took the class, swaddling was important. The child CPR was important to me. Like, that was a big deal. And the car seat. Those were probably the 3 biggest things I really was focused on when I took the class.
So my mom was both my moms were nurses, so they worked for the Red Cross. So as a kid, I used to get to go out and, like, give donuts to the firefighters. Like, if there was a fire at like 2 a.m, like, we'd get to go out and I'd get to go, like, hang in the tent area or whatever, the refuge. Like, so we just spent a lot of time at the Scranton Red Cross, and I learned I had been getting trained in CPR since I was a kid, and then as a coach and a teacher, I had to get recerted every year. So I was a bitter about taking that class because I was like, why are we here? Like, I know this, whatever, right? Well, I'll tell you what, my daughter choked at, so she must have been enough where you could start giving her some solid food, but she was small that you had to hold her still.
Yeah.
And Luis had given her, like a piece of an apple, and she started choking.
See, it's supposed to be something slippery.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like a orange, like a mandarin orange. Or
and I remember, and I'll never forget, like, when I did the CPR at school, there was a woman who taught her. Her name was Cindy Gadzicki, and she'd been a health teacher at where I work forever. And so she was so great because she would always talk about how every time there would be an infant at a baseball game or something, and she would always stress that part of it about how you have to hold them so that, like, and then how you have to transfer them
over
to, like, do
the back
and the gravity of it.
And
so there was this moment, and I'm right now, I can feel, and you're reliving a moment. I can feel it rushing to my head right now. So, like, I saw him holding her, I saw panic, and I grabbed my daughter and I just put her, her face in my palm and down, and I start like smacking her back. Then I transfer her over. I'm trying to sweep. I can see that she's not breathing. I have to do this 3-4 more cycles. And now at that point,
like 20 minutes,
you have to buy in. Like you have to be like, I don't know if this is working, but there's no time like
to
for
reassess.
an ambulance to get here,
Yeah.
to go wherever. Like this has to work. And it did. And we got there after the 4th cycle. But whew,
oh my god.
I mean,
we're talking blue face,
yeah, she was turning blue.
Yeah, that's insane.
It was full on, dude.
That's insane.
It was like, and it's funny because as a kid, my moms and I, we would always watch primetime TV together. We'd have Jell-O with a little Cool Whip on it, and we'd always like watch primetime. Well, at that point in the 90s, there was Rescue 911 with William Shatner. Do you guys remember that? So that was one of the things we would watch together as a family as part of the 8 to 10 lineup or whatever. And I always got scared. I always remember wanting to watch it, and they were nurses and whatever. So, but I always remember getting scared with the home intruders, because then I'd be like trying to sleep that night.
Yeah.
But I always remember those kind of things. And so I think that kind of helped me to know some of this was normal. Or, I had an incident where I actually had to give CPR once on a kid.
Okay.
And he ended up not making it.
Holy shit.
But like, it was a roadside thing.
Oh
The
my
kid
gosh.
flew out the back of a Camaro at like 80 miles an hour.
What
like,
the fuck?
and it was a kid that I ended up knowing. I didn't know at the time, but I worked with his
Wow.
grandfather. We played
Oh my
baseball
gosh.
together. And my girlfriend at the time, it was her best friend was one of the others injured in it. And I just never forget that moment, and how I committed, and how, I had to keep going getting blood tests after that, because he was bleeding through his nose.
Oh,
and
you
so
were
when I
getting
would
it
go
on your
down to do
face
the
and
mouth
stuff,
to mouth, it was all in me.
You're like drinking
So I
blood,
had to keep going to get tested. Like,
Oof.
and so like I had been in a few moments. Trouble always seems to find me. I'm always like the good Samaritan in some story.
Well, there is that moment when you leave the hospital and you kind of look and like, are any of you going to come with me? Like who's going to help me? And they're like,
how was the car ride
they're
home?
like, you're on your own,
Remember the car
Padre.
ride home?
You're like, yeah.
It's like
I remember
scene of Knocked Up at the end of Knocked Up, when he's like driving like 20 miles an hour is the closing
Yeah,
scene.
that's what it is. It's like who's coming with me? Like, no, you're on your own. Like, this is it. I remember when my daughter was born, this lady just walked up to me and put a child in my face. And I guess it's like an instinctual thing where you're not going to drop your own kid or any kid, right?
Yeah.
She just walked, like, I remember it was a C-section, baby gets pulled out, cut the umbilical. Here you go, dad. Bang, baby in my hands. And I'm like, oh, snap. What's kind of cool for me is that mom had to get stitched back up.
Yep.
So I got the first 25, 35
I was going to
minutes
say, how
with my
cool
daughter.
was that moment?
And I was
in
like
the
looking at this
nursery?
little person like, all right, kiddo, it's you. Here we go. This is the start of it. And she, she's just like this.
I remember,
baby,
the fink grabbing. I remember the hand grabbing my finger. I still have a photo of it.
Yep. And it was just like, here we go. It's you and me. And then when you leave, they're like, good luck, dad. And you're like, who comes with, like, who do I? And they're like,
we had a little book. We had a little booklet. And I remember we always had this booklet, and it was like a little quick guide of like all of the A to Z stuff, like giving a bath, like things to think about. And I just remember like this instruction manual that Phoenixville Hospital had given us was like our Bible.
You know what I think is the worst thing about this whole thing is the way my employer treated me. Yo, you have a kid, life-changing shit, like life-changing. And they're like, all right, we'll see you in 7 days. And you're like, whoa, hold on. Like mentally, I'm not ready for this. Like, because I think I only got 7 days of like parental leave or whatever the dads get.
So, okay. So, and Neil, while I'm talking about this, can you look up paternity leave in like Europe?
They're like 6 years.
So like,
yeah,
just stop working.
You just
and we'll
stop
send
working
you
until
money.
the kid goes to
So
college.
you think that's bad? As a teacher, I got 3 days.
I got 3 days. They gotta do better than that.
And thankfully we had a plan. Well, so we knew the day. So we knew it was going to kind of be we had a thought that we were going to try natural, but we had an inclination and we had to induce labor because it went on a little bit longer. So like we had to think about it. We were like, okay, let's do this on a Wednesday. That way I can take Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off.
Then you get the weekend.
Then we get the weekend. So like, but these are the plans that I had to think about because I knew I was only getting 3 days.
Yeah.
And then bam, Monday, I'm back in action.
Yeah. And it's like, mentally,
weeks. Oh my God, that's weeks. That's not even days. So he pulled up a chart.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to bring this up so everyone can see. Boom. So this is just a little bit of the maternity paternity leave there, and you can see United Kingdom there. Obviously, maternity leave for the woman being almost upwards of 50 weeks, and paternity being fairly low there.
So it is, but like Finland,
which I was just in.
So they have like they're like 8 weeks.
Yeah,
They're getting like
Australia's
8 weeks.
up there.
Is Spain up there?
I believe. Ooh.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. So
Yep.
so Luis's, it is there. I see it towards the right hand side.
Yep.
So Luis's brother, my dad's husband, his brother, has a couple kids, and we got a chance. I went and visited. We took the family this summer, and so I got to hang out for a month there. And we did a couple play dates, and he and I were chatting. And he also dives for razorfish, and so like they own their own business. But he's like, I was able to take off. He's like, I was able to take off. His friend Angel, who's the third on that boat with them, just had a kid, and he's off for like 6-7 weeks. And those are paid.
Yeah,
those are paid through
we do
Fishers Union.
And I remember being so psychologically not prepared. Like you have a kid, you're missing sleep and da da da. But I remember like this thing came into the world, and you have to care for it all the time. Like you are, and like psychologically not being ready. And then it's like, we need you back at work. And I'm not gonna say who I work for, but it's insane that you work for like this $1 billion company that's got like so many employees, and it's like you can't find one person to show up and take my place for a while I just understand.
What's
life.
It say under that? People also ask on that first drop down.
How much
paternity leave? What's
Europeans get?
A minimum of 10 days to be implemented in all EU countries by August 2022.
Yep.
So that's a mandate. So that means 2 weeks. So you're getting 5. I'm assuming that means 10 business days. So you're getting 2 full weeks off.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
3 days.
3 days. That's
3 days.
Yeah. I had to use vacation days.
Yeah, those are because as teachers,
days.
Because we only work 192 days.
Oh yeah.
So
that's a good point. Then you got your summer.
So here's what's funny. So then I took my 3 days, and that was my 3. I get 10 sick days, but you only get 3 personal days. But so my wife, God bless her, had just gotten hired 3 years before, so she had built up. She never took a day off, never took a sick day for her first 4 years of teaching.
Wow.
She had exactly the number of days so she was done, right? So now she had to build it back up 10 at a time. So our second was literally born the first day of summer vacation.
Oh, look at that.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
Well done.
Right? How
well
about
done.
it? Like none of this was planned. We're like,
you're talking about not knowing if your swimmers work, and now your swimmers are punctual,
dude. And then all of a sudden,
they set them to a watch.
I'm telling you, I grew up Catholic, so obviously I'm not anymore. But like there are things at work. I believe in that higher power stuff. I mean, it's crazy to think about. And now flash forward to, I have a 3rd grader and a 1st grader.
All right.
And it's like, it's going to be so much fun for us as we get into these future episodes to start diving into like the hard hitting topics. Like today was just about like us introducing each other, talking about some of our own things. And we're going to get to kind of continue to hammer at that. I think it's going to be,
the sky's the limit. I mean, he's the stuff that's already like show. So Lainey is 8 years old now. That's insane to me.
2nd grade, 1st grade.
Second.
Grade.
That is absolutely insane to me. Like she has like friends.
Yeah.
They have friends. I used to be her only. She used to have 3 friends. The 2 of them was me, her mom, like her grandmother.
Yeah.
Now she has like friends. And she's like, can I go to so-and-so's house? And I'm like, well, what about me? Don't you want to hang out with me? And it's like, no, I don't want to hang out with you. And I'm like, you sure about that? And she's like, yeah, I don't want to hang out with you. But it's absolutely insane that now like they're just growing into these things. And I mean, I remember swaddling this. It's a swaddle. That was my move.
Dude, I could tell.
I could twist a kid up like a blunt. I was swaddling this kid so tight. And now she's like a full on, I almost feel like she's a grown up. And she's like hanging out with people, and she's got questions. And it's just an incredible like journey. It's unreal. If you don't have kids, consider it.
I mean, it is. And everyone's like, because even, so I have 2, my youngest is in 1st, but she's starting to get that. Because with our first, my oldest, and this will be something we'll talk about in future episodes, but my oldest is autistic, and we recognized it as young as 18 months because my wife went to school for that, was an autism support teacher as her thing. So we started noticing things so like, I can't wait. So like it's funny. And you had said, oh, she has friends. And I'll be honest, like real talk, like I got a little sad in that moment because my daughter's in 3rd grade, and like I'm gonna die for the day that she has friends, because it's just for her, she just doesn't have that way. She didn't talk till she was almost 5.
Really?
You know what I mean? So like I was sitting there like, and like I'm a language teacher. I'm like I'm talking to her all the time. Like would like say a word. I was like, I used to have dreams like she would say stuff like hash brown or like anything like, and then she talks up a storm and it's great, but like it's still kind of like she talks like a foreign exchange student.
Okay.
So like you'll talk to her and she's sort of around the idea, but she's scripting stuff that she's either read or heard. So like part of her is like she was like taught herself how to read so young, and she reads all these graphic novels. So now she's got all of this dialogue that she's trying to spit out appropriately, but like no kid can hang on. Like God bless the angels who like are so nice to her, and like her school is so great, and we put her in everything regular. Like she's got special needs soccer and cheerleading, and we put her in everything. We're like, you're going to be out in this world. This world's going to be rough. You need to get out there.
You have to figure this out.
And I'm in her building every once in a while, and I can hear her in the hallways, like, you know, having a moment where she's like being escorted to like the room to cool down or whatever. And you can tell like sometimes she's going to seem like a burden to other kids. And so it's like, but at the same time, she is such a blessing because she is such a sweetheart. And because we realized it's so young and got her into therapies, she is the best version of herself. And if you haven't watched Love on the Spectrum on Netflix, dude, for me, it's like a roller coaster ride. And then they just released a US version, but they have like 2 seasons of an Australian version of these 20-year-olds dating. And so now I get to see 15 years into the future.
Yeah.
And I didn't think she was going to talk for the longest. For 5 years, I was pretty committed that my daughter was never going to talk. And so now that she's doing this, so now it's like amazing. So I can't wait till my daughter's like, I have friends, you know what I mean? Because it's going to be, because those are some of the things that we want for all of our kids regardless. But it's so cool when you have moments like that, your kid hits a milestone you didn't anticipate, or it creeps up faster than you ever thought.
Right.
And it's so much, it's maybe even sweeter at that point. But it's so cool now to think like, wow, I created that. That's a child I had. Like I see her, she loves going to BAM. So she'll sit there and read books nonstop. And I'm like, you couldn't get me to read a book unless it had baseball in it. You know?
Like, that's what I read baseball.
So there's just such little blessings, and you have a moment now. You're like, wow, I remember when I was so afraid of you coming, and so afraid that I couldn't change your diaper, and now you're going to the bathroom on your own.
Yeah,
heck yeah.
You know, Lainey, my daughter, we had our parent teacher conferences, and you know, I don't really care about her grades. I don't care. I don't think grades are really all that important. So we're in the parent, and Lainey's her grades are great, so I'm not worried about it. So I'm asking the teacher questions about her demeanor and how she treats her classmates. How does she ask questions in front of the class? And no, there's some things there that she needs to work on her confidence a little bit because she doesn't like speaking in front of the class and stuff. But one thing that she said is, the teacher said, and I was extremely proud. She said, when the new kids come to school, or if someone needs help, Lainey, my daughter, is the one to help them. Like a new girl came to school and Lainey wrote her a letter welcoming her to the school and being her friend. And I was like, there you go. Like that's it right there. Like that's what I don't care if she understands your silly little book about whatever. I don't care about that. She'll figure it out. You know what I mean?
If she can do your everyday math.
Your stupid little 2 + 2. We don't even know if that's real right now. But you know, being told that my daughter is embracing new kids when they come to school and helping them, and that was the win for me. You know what I mean? That was it for me. That's what I wanted. Like, dude, is this little person going to grow up to be a helpful, contributing member to society, or is she going to be an asshole?
Heck yeah.
And right now, all signs point to she's helping people, and she does. She loves people. So that was a win for me. I was really, So if your daughter ever wants to hang out with my daughter,
dude,
you guys can come hang out. Lena's will have
and my youngest is so great because my youngest is what they would call neurotypical or whatever. Because that was the other thing. Oh well, what of my next daughter? So and it's amazing to watch their relationship. Oh my god, my youngest has such empathy for this world. She loves her sister. She adores her older sister. And watching their relationship during the pandemic when they were each other's only friends. So my youngest, it's sort of interesting because they haven't had the ability to have friends. And so now they had play dates. I had a girl come like, oh yeah, please. Like, so for me, it's like so cool because now I'm also getting that experience with my second daughter.
Yeah.
But yet now I'm going to do with my older daughter. She's in Girl Scouts with regular kids, so I'm going to do a autism badge. So I'm going to go and teach her. I went to her kindergarten class and I read a book on autism to the class, and we talked about it.
Nice.
And I coach a special needs baseball team. I used to go to local churches in our community and talk about being a parent of a child with autism. So I'm just like, you just lean in, like whatever. Like I wouldn't imagine I would have done that, but you just lean in. You could, and some parents don't. They're gonna want to shelter. Like her kindergarten teacher. I remember a story we'll probably talk in a future episode where we had a moment where the teacher she revealed that her son was autistic, but he was older, and so back then there's so much around now. There's so much support and there's so much awareness that there wasn't 20 years ago. And she admitted that she kept her son sheltered because she didn't want to go through those growing pains of, or would people accept it, whatever. And
or institutionalized people institutionalized for someone's entire life.
And for the angels like Lainey, like your daughter, like the girls who have Julia at her school that has lunch with her every day. Like there's kids there that are angels that know that and step up. And those are the kids that, so it's gonna be cool for us to talk. I think we got a lot to go on. I think we could sit here for hours, and I'm excited for us to kind of
that's the plan, is for us to just keep on building on top of our daughter stories.
Dude, this is gonna be great. I feel like for those of you listening, I hope that you got a lot out of this, but there's a lot more to come. I think we got some great guests we're going to be bringing on. We got a lot of cool topics. We're going to dive into more about stuff like, how our kids are doing in school, parent conferences. I think there's just such a rich thing because it's real, and that's what I like about bringing my daughters on stage is real is funny.
Oh my God.
And you have to find the humor in it. Otherwise it gets
you can't do it without humor.
It gets too much.
Which is funny which is not, I was saying funny, but we weren't really diving into humor right now. But as we talk, this will get a lot more humor because parenting is humor.
Dude,
family is humor. These little weird things that happen. You're not alone. A lot of other families are dealing with stuff. When you can put that to a joke and throw a punchline and make it a real story that people can relate to, it's
got to start real. You got to start.
You got to start with that real shit. Yeah,
that's why people were maybe comics or whatever. Like they realize that too. Sometimes you try to find the funny first. No, you write the scene first.
Start with the real.
Then you taper back and you find what's because you want people to relate to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's cool.
And if you're listening to this, if you are interested in talking about your experience as a parent or what you're dealing with your family or children, hit us up. We'll have you come on. We'll rap for a little bit. We want to hear your stories. Everyone's got one. If you're a parent, you have a story, if not a million of them.
Heck yeah.
Come share them.
That's right. Well, and we'll have an IG account for us. Right now, you can hit us up on our individuals. I'm Jay Yoder Comedy on whatever platform you like. And then what are you on?
I am Albert Davis _4th. That's on Instagram.
All right. We could probably drop it in the show notes too.
Yeah.
And all of that. So, but then we'll get our own account, our podcast account, because that'd be cool to interact and have
we gotta
be a
get
part of the process.
It's all on its way.
Yeah, which is cool. So it's gonna be fun, man. I think we got something here.
Beautiful. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week. Seriously, Dad?
Seriously,
Dad? Seriously, Dad?
Dad? Seriously,
Seriously, Dad?
This has been a Drop Tent Media Production.